Section 3.4 starts on page 112, and this is on the percent equation. So again, this is another part that was done in 7th grade. You might remember it, hopefully you do, so you might be able to move pretty quickly through this section, and then we're going to use percent more and more throughout this chapter, so make sure you have a good understanding of just the basics of the percent equation. So first things first, a percent is a ratio of a number to 100. So for instance, like 50% is 50 over 100. It's a ratio of a number to 100, so that number to 100. The symbol, we should all know now, is the percent sign. So percents can be written with the symbol, as fractions, or as decimals. So for instance, example 1 says write 82% as a fraction as a decimal. Well, we're just taking this 82 and writing it as a ratio to 100, so 82 over 100. And then we can actually simplify that. Both of these things are divisible by 2, both of these numbers. So we get 41 over 50 would be our fraction. And the decimal form is just moving the decimal 2 places to the left. Or if you remember, 82 hundredths is read as 82 hundredths. This is our hundredths place. Example 2 says write 3/5 as a decimal and a percent. So 3/5 as a decimal, first thing we'd have to do is just divide it out. Remember, this is our dividend. We flick it down into the lion's den, if you need to remember that. So we have 3 divided by 5. Goes 0 times. We have to add a decimal and annex a 0. How many times does 5 go into 30? 6. So our decimal form is 0.6. And then to write this as a percent, we multiply it by 100%, or we can move our decimal place 2 places out to the right to get our percent. So it's 60%. So our decimal is 0.6, and our percent is 60%. Example 3, write 1.55 as a percent and as a fraction. So we'll just take 1.55 times 100%, or we're moving our decimal over twice, so that's 155%. And then we're taking this 155, we're writing it as a ratio to 100, so 155 over 100, which is, they are both divisible by 5. We get 31 over 20. And remember, improper fractions are completely acceptable, so we'll just leave it at that. So the percent of a whole is equal to the part. And that's what this says right here. Percent of the whole, or percent times whole, equals part. This is our percent equation. Example 4, what percent of 35 is 17? So we need to remember, we have percent times whole equals part. Might even want to put percent times whole equals part, so we don't get our 2 p's mixed up. So percent times whole equals part. So what percent of means multiply, 85 is 17. So this is our multiplication, this is our equal sign. And then we'll just solve it. It's just a nice simple one-step equation. So we'll divide both sides by 85 to get p all by itself. And p equals 17 over 85, or when we divide that out, it's 0.2. And remember, we're solving for a percent, so we want to leave this written as a percent. So we'll just shift this over 2 decimal places and we get 20%. Example 5, what is 45% of 236? So we have what, or x, or r, or whatever, is equals 45%, or we should write it as a decimal to multiply, 0.45 of tells us to multiply into 36. Then we'll just go ahead and plug those numbers in our calculator, and we get R equals 106.2. Example 6. 78 is 130% of what number? So we have 78 is, that's equals 130%, or 1.3 would be our decimal form, of, that's times, what number, or what whole number. So we have 1.3 times W equals 78, and go ahead and divide to get W all by itself, and we get W equals 60, or our whole number that we started out with in our equation would be 60. Example 7. How many gallons of 2% milk does it take to yield 1 gallon of butterfat? So we're just saying 2%, or 0.02 of the milk, M, is 1%, or no, sorry, 1 gallon of butterfat. So we have 0.02 M equals 1. Then we just solve. We get M equals 50. So we would need 50 gallons of 2% milk for 1 gallon of butterfat. Example 8, we're all around to page 114 now. This is the last one. What percent of the votes did Miss Grandy receive? Well, I guess I better read the problem first. Miss Grandy received 17,490 of the 31,800 votes cast in this election. What percent of the votes did she receive? So it says, what percent of 31,800 is 17,490? So what percent times this 3,100, or 31,800, I don't know why I'm having trouble with that number, is equals 17,490. So we're solving for a percent. So we're just going to divide. We get P equals 0.55, but remember this needs to be written as a percent, so you can either multiply it by 100% or just move your decimal over 2 spaces and label it as a percent, so it's 55%. So did she win the election? Yes, because she got more than half the votes. Alright, so that is actually it for this lesson. It was super short and sweet. There are a lot of word problems here, so make sure you pay really close attention to them, and then take care of your Khan Academy assignments as well.